is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I'm Leslie Backoff.
Leslie's back with us today. Brent is, I don't even know where Brent is.
Who knows where Brent is?
Right,
I'm
we
just
don't
kidding.
know.
He's running around. Spring market is upon us, so I'm sure he's out there.
He's a busy
getting
guy.
business.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're back with Jamie Manning this week.
Hi.
Jamie Manning from Exposed Brick. Third visit here,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
we love having you.
Yeah. A lot to talk about.
Yes, and we got a lot of questions. You put it out there on your Instagram for Ask Me Anything, and I saw some questions roll in there. I also put it out on my Instagram, so we have some questions to ask you and in general about the real estate market. But let's first revisit Jamie Manning and your extremely popular blog, Exposed Brick. How is the blog going? How's your business going?
It's going really well. I think that you guys kind of felt that dip in the end of last year and when things really slowed down, and it was taking a lot to find inspiration during that time because things weren't really coming on the market. Things were really slow. But I think I'm getting more excited about the spring market, and it seems like things are picking up. I went to an open house 2 weekends ago where there were, at least 25 people there.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, people just neighbors looking around. There were serious buyers. With their agents strategizing in every corner. It was actually pretty funny to watch because I overheard so many conversations of people being like, what's it going to take to get this house? And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So people are back.
So how many, that's one of the things you do to create content for your blog is you visit open houses on your own pretty much every weekend, and how do you select the open houses?
That's a good question. Yeah. So, I try to go every weekend, but I have a life too. So, sometimes I'm not in town, but I really do enjoy going. So every week I go through the new listings of the week on Thursday evenings. And I select what are my 10 favorite listings that I send out in a newsletter on Friday. So usually I try to go to a lot of open houses that are on that list of 10. But I'm also cognizant of, trying not to run myself ragged and run across town. Yeah. So I'll try to group things together. So if there are 3 great listings in Capitol Hill, I'll just try to stay on Capitol Hill rather than going across town. But it's rare that I just stumble in on a place. It's always pretty much planned.
Do you have agents sending you, hey, my listing has an open house this weekend, come check it out? Or?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I get a lot of those DMs. And, sometimes I'm already going and it just naturally aligns. But it's hard. It's just me, and I will try to go to, 5 or 6 in a day, which, as you guys know, is a lot. And so it's hard to just squeeze people in at the last minute.
And so when you go to visit some of these open houses, for the most part, you're curating these ones that you're most interested in because you're looking at what's coming in through the MLS. And then do you ever show up at an open house to create content and have an agent say, what are you doing?
Yes. So I would say that happens maybe 30% of the time. I've gotten to the point where I feel lucky that agents do sometimes recognize me and they're like, oh yeah, do your thing. And they're really excited about it. But there definitely are agents who don't really understand the concept of the blog and feel like they need to get the seller's permission, which I understand because I know a lot of work goes into how you market a place. And so I think that they feel nervous about losing a little bit of control in that sense. I did have an agent recently ask me, well, are you going to say something mean? Oh. And I was like, no, I would never say anything mean.
Yeah, right. Your stuff's generally positive.
Super positive.
Yeah. Because I don't think that serves anybody to show up and be negative. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to be positive. And she's like, oh, okay. So I hope that everyone knows that I would never show up just to trash your listing.
Well, and I think probably those agents haven't necessarily seen your content because after you take a look at everything, it's all super positive and always, puts a listing in actually really great light. And I know you've featured, I think, one of my rental listings at one point, and I got 7 or to 10, people that reached out from your blog. So it's, for agents out there, let Jamie come into your listings.
It's positive. Yeah.
Well, why don't we get to some of these Ask Me Anything questions? What do you say? So these ones were collected by you. We've got a list here. Let's just go right to the first one. Do agents work with clients who are looking for rentals?
Do you want me to answer that?
I'll answer it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. The answer is it obviously depends.
Right.
Because as we've all discussed on this show and elsewhere before, there's not a whole lot of money in rentals for agents who are just trying to find a tenant for a property and vice versa, have a landlord to connect to a tenant. So, but yes, we absolutely do. Leslie?
Yeah, I would say, especially starting out and being newer in the business. I mean, the first year and a half, a ton of my business was coming from rentals. So I think, as you potentially get busier, you maybe do less and less. But I think most agents 100% would say they do rentals. And I think especially when it's a slower market, you're going to see more real estate agents handling rentals.
And you?
I mean, I dabbled in the
Right.
rental agent game
Yeah, right.
for a
This is
little
how
bit.
you started, really.
Yeah, because when I first got licensed and when the blog was popular, I had so many people reaching out to me one-on-one being like, will you help me find something? And at that point, I was still working full-time in my political job, but on the weekends, I was showing places. And I just had a strict rule with showing rentals. I would only show you 3.
Okay.
And that was the rule. So it was like we would be
Is
together
that
for an
time
hour.
management?
Yeah, we'd be together for an hour. I'd show you 3. If you wanted any of them, great. If you didn't, that's fine too.
Mhm.
But I couldn't spin my wheels.
Totally.
I like that.
Yeah, I'll show
Yeah.
you 3.
Let's narrow this down
Right.
immediately.
Yeah. It's definitely, they can take up a lot of time. So
Mhm.
setting those boundaries is super important.
Right.
All right. Now question number 2. I didn't know if this was, it has a double
It's
meaning.
interesting.
What are the downsides of exposed brick? Does that mean like exposed brick like we see on our wall here, or your blog?
They did capitalize.
capitalize it?
Exposed
But that doesn't
brick.
mean anything either.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe not.
Maybe we can talk about both
Let's talk about
meanings.
both.
I think we're going to
Yeah.
talk about both.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think the downside of exposed brick, as in an exposed brick wall, you guys would probably know better than me that like if it's not sealed properly, like it gets dusty and crumbly.
Here we are. Now we're general contractors.
right,
Yeah.
right. But that's the only negative thing that I've heard about having exposed brick in your home is that it gets dusty sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know that I've heard. I know, like having an inspection, inspectors are like happy to kind of see some exposed brick because they can see a little more about like how the house is settled.
Oh,
So
interesting.
True.
that's not a downside actually. That's more of a positive. But yeah, I don't.
I would guess also there could be some, for if you have drywall and studs, there could be some sound dampening effect to that with
Mhm.
party walls, which might
Yeah.
put air on the side of drywall over or plaster. But there's not a whole lot of downsides other than like what you were saying. If it's not sealed correctly, there could be extra dust if it's not done right.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So the downside of exposed brick,
The
the
blog.
blog, I think the ultimate downside is FOMO and looking at listings all the time and thinking like, oh, like I really want that place. So like every weekend, I think that I accidentally fall in love with a new home and I never move.
But I've been doing that my whole life.
yeah.
I mean, we go into some
Right.
awesome places
Oh my gosh,
and
yeah.
we get to fantasize. And that's part of our job
Yeah.
Right.
is creating the lifestyle, selling the lifestyle, enjoying that aspect of it. But I also enjoy not buying properties
Mhm.
because we all know there's a lot of maintenance
Right.
and
Mhm.
certainly very expensive right now. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
but
Totally
yeah, I
agree.
hear you on that.
About how much time, I'm sure you've said this in the other podcasts, how much time a week are you spending on your blog versus your real life job?
Yeah, that's a good question because I feel like I'm kind of just constantly thinking about it because it is so much
Mhm.
of like a creative outlet for me
Sure.
that it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
So like all the times that I'm like popping on Instagram and like reposting things to my stories, like I don't really count that as like, head down work. It's
Yeah.
just fun. But I will say it probably takes me an hour to go through the new listings Thursday night. And everything that I do on social media seems to happen pretty quickly. And then it's just my time of going to open houses on the weekends.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 5 hours, 10 hours. I don't know. But like, again, it doesn't feel like work. So I don't really keep track.
Right. It's
Yeah.
a good creative outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is it the kind of thing though where if you're just not feeling it one week, will you sort of back off and just take some personal time and not?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, I don't want to force it. And like this past weekend I didn't go anywhere because there wasn't anything that I thought was like super great. And I also have to balance with finding listings that I like, and like sometimes the pictures are so great that I'm like I don't really even need to show up. Like I don't think I could do a better job with a video. So kind of balancing that out. But yeah, sometimes I just don't feel inspired. But like last night, for example, I like pumped out like 5 reels and they're just in my drafts because I was just like, oh my gosh, I have all these ideas. So it just kind of comes in waves, I think.
That's probably
Good.
nice to just
Yeah.
kind of batch them and then you can shoot them off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, it's sort of similar to what I do with my TikTok. I'm looking for something that I know will, usually I want to video well. That's my main
Yes.
thing. It's
Yeah.
like, you can tell from photos, like, is a light going to be good here? For video, it's super important. Is there going to be something quirky or interesting that isn't just like cookie cutter? So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing, is trying to like build up a list of things that I can keep pushing out.
Yeah. How often do you post on TikTok?
Right now, about 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. Okay. Have you ever posted daily?
Yes,
Did you find that that was better or made a difference?
it helped build the audience much more quickly early on, and then I just
Okay.
like then the reality of my business and also kids.
Yeah.
It just became too much, and like doing it post every day became like, I don't know. I know I could do it
Right.
if I set that extra time aside. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that you saw value in posting daily because I'm trying to get to that point because I like to batch content. And so I used to just post like 10 videos on like a Sunday.
On one day.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
just being like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And now
I
I
don't know
realize
that that's necessary though. Yeah, I think
I had so many good ideas in one day.
that's fine. No, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly though, that could work too though, because you if people are really enjoying what you're doing and they're like scrolling through and they're flipping through, it's like, oh wow, another, they're back right focused on you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't have the TikTok following that either of you guys have, but I have noticed that it is kind of like you get 1 like and then sometimes it's like 3 likes from the same person. So yeah, they are like have gone to your page and like scrolled through. So yeah, I think it's.
But I think like TikTok, I don't know how you look at TikTok. I mean, yes, sometimes I will go to someone's profile and start going through all their stuff. But for the most part, we're scrolling through a new video, a new video, a new video.
Yeah.
So I think that's really how you hit people on TikTok,
Right.
by just keeping it consistent. And I know that my videos have long shelf life. So something that gets traffic immediately, obviously if it's going to go viral or viral-ish, that'll happen early on.
Yeah.
But it's still getting comments, it's still getting looks. It could be weeks and weeks later.
Right.
Very true.
So that's something that's good about TikTok.
Yeah.
All right, let's do another question. Question is, will more houses come on the market in the middle of Capitol Hill?
So
Very
Get our
specific.
crystal balls out and
Like, but when? Yeah.
I don't know. I do feel, well, I guess everyone's sort of understanding of the middle of Capitol Hill is probably different.
Yeah.
Like, what is the middle of Capitol Hill?
I think Eastern Market. is
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lincoln Park,
Right.
to Eastern Market.
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
was thinking Lincoln Park area.
Because there was a house that came on the market that just closed at like 6th and A. Do you know the house I'm talking about? It was, I think it was a little less than $1 million,
Okay.
but it escalated like $200K over ask.
Mhm.
Owned by the same person since the late 1980s, and she bought it in 1988 for $325,000, and it just sold for 1.3.
Love it.
I know.
Wow.
But I feel like I don't see a ton of houses come up like in that area that close to
true.
the Capitol.
Yeah.
It's a really popular area. It's not like a huge inventory of houses to begin with, and
Inventory's low.
its inventory is
Yeah.
generally low anyway. So I think that again, that's like a crystal ball kind of question,
Right.
but that's one of the most popular areas of the city, and so houses over there, I think, inventory is pretty low.
As agents, we hope more come on the market.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
hard to predict that.
Yeah, you were just talking before we were recording. You were talking about a house that you had listed in Chevy Chase, DC.
Yeah.
The price point was under $1 million
Price point right under $1 million.
for a detached house, right?
For a detached
Wow.
house, corner lot. It was, we went under contract last night for over listing price. but we had 47 agent showings and close to 30 to 40 through the open house on Sunday.
Wow.
And yeah, had multiple offers. So I think it's just, I think showing that throughout the city, single family detached homes, but also row homes. I mean, there's just so much demand for that.
Mhm.
Huge
So
demand.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, do you ever get up to Northwest in those areas like Chevy Chase, Crestwood, AU?
I do. Not as much as I would like. Because I feel like, again, there's not a lot of inventory up there, especially, sometimes I feel like a lot of the stuff up there is like 2 million plus.
Right.
Which feels a little unobtainable.
Right, because you're really trying to, work for people that, more attainable pricing in some ways. I know that's how
But it's
kind
sort
of
of
you
your-
started the blog. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also your personality and
Yeah.
what you find interesting. That's the
Right.
whole point.
Right. And I mean, I think that I'm starting to learn more about that really upper price point. And sometimes I'll look at a house that's 2 million, and in the same week I'll see a house that's half that I think is nicer.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just think that it doesn't ultimately always boil down to price. You can find something really attractive at all price points.
Totally.
Agreed.
All right, next question. I bought my condo in September of 2021. How long before selling How long before selling is wise?
Interesting. I feel like this has come up before. And I mean, September 2021 was recently.
Yeah.
I think what people forget is like all of the costs associated with selling.
Right.
I think we've talked about this, and didn't we say
did, yeah.
something like 5 years? You should hold on your condo 5 years.
Yeah, there's like a
Kind of rule of thumb.
rule
Yeah.
of thumb,
Yeah.
like for hopeful recapture of
Yeah.
everything. Hopeful again, markets can't predict. Something like that, 4 to 7 years, I would
Mhm.
say.
Right.
It depends. I mean, everyone's in a different situation. I have 2 listings right now, condos. One was 2017 sale, which is that's 6 years ago. And, given the market that we're in currently today, this is March of 2023, it's a tough sale.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of equity gain because the interest rates have kind of driven the payments up, which means that the market for the equity side has gone the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So to 2021 to now, 2021, again, rates were half of what they are now,
Right.
maybe.
Basically, yeah.
So I think that would be tough, but I would have to know exactly what the product is
Right.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, we mentioned costs. You do want to think about, if you're going to use a luxury broker or something discounted. I mean, there would be commission
Mhm.
fees in there, anything as far as staging or repairs. So, yeah, it's more, I think, overall looking at what those costs are, not just what the price point is that you're
Yeah.
selling at.
Mhm.
Get the specific
Yeah.
net numbers before you start making those decisions.
Right.
Jamie, anything else to add to that?
No, I think that makes sense. I think
Mhm.
having that good rule of thumb is helpful.
Yeah. I'll jump down to one of these that I think is kind of an interesting question. What is a realistic path to home ownership in DC for a single woman or man, let's say, in her or his late 20s? So a single person in their late 20s, a realistic path to home
We
ownership.
did this before too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think what we talked about is like it's hard to give advice for somebody that you don't know because single women, single men, whoever, they have all different kinds of interests. So you
Right.
can't really bucket people together. I guess if I had a piece of advice, which is again going back to FOMO, I kind of wish that I would have bought something, anything,
Mhm.
just when I could afford it and not really tried to think so much about the future and be like, oh, well, am I really going to stay here this long? And I think that's a trap a lot of people in DC especially fall into
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, I'm just going to live here a couple years and then I'm going to leave. It's such a transient place. But I've been here over 10 years now and I'm kicking myself. Like, why didn't I just buy a little studio or something just to get started? So it's hard.
I think I totally agree. And I think what I would recommend is just, even if you don't necessarily know that you want to buy today or, relatively soon, I think it's always a good thing to talk with a lender and just
Mhm.
kind of see that financial picture. So right now, so many lenders are offering, various subsidies or grants. I was talking with a lender that's at PNC Bank. They have a couple great grant programs for people that are making like $112,000 or less. So there are ways to kind of help you financially there. So I think just getting the process started to really see what you could afford.
Yeah, I guess the question, the realistic path, and I think I like what Jamie said, but also to be more specific. When I think about my own life in DC, obviously living here forever, and being in a career where it's like I'm not really, I'm not changing careers, right? And even if I wanted to keep doing what I'm doing, I can't even do this anywhere else. I'm here. For me, I've bought and sold plenty of real estate in my life. I think that here's one thing that I wish I had done with the now knowing where I am is probably buying a house like a townhouse or a fee simple detached property every 2 to 3 years with the plan in mind that I'm going to sell that house every 2 to 3 years. Maybe add some value to it, and maybe you win some, maybe you lose some, but there is an absolute way to gain equity there. You begin with a down payment on the front end, right? Whatever equity gain you make on the total sum of the property. So it's the equity plus the original amount you put in. Then you keep folding that into the next property. There's going to be an uncomfortable level at some point where like, this is too much property. Like,
Right.
But at least you could get yourself moving around the city and like into a property maybe that you really do want to stay in for a long time.
Right.
But you'd have to have a little bit of luck, right? Because the market's going to take care of the market. Doesn't matter what kind of property it is. If location choice is going to be important, you need a little bit of luck. You need the property hopefully isn't a lemon, right? With some kind of giant drainage problem or roof problem that you just never know.
Right.
But that is a plan that I've looked back. I've seen people do that, and I'm like, I kind of wish I did that. But there's a lot of energy that goes into that too.
Yes.
Like having to shift around your whole life and just keep it minimal and
Yeah. And I think that also the people that I know that have like done well in real estate have really thought outside the box. So it's people that have bought a 2-bedroom condo and had a roommate and offset their costs that way. Or I know somebody that bought a house that had an English basement and he lived in the English basement and rented the top out.
Smart.
It's called house hacking is a term I've heard.
Right. Exactly. Or being okay with buying a fixer upper and living through a construction zone to build that equity in the end. And for me, it's like where I live is very much like my sanctuary. And it's like not something that I really want to compromise on. And I don't want to be in a stressful environment. But for some people, like that house hacking really works.
Yeah,
for sure.
I did it once. I did one big renovation of this cool condo that I lived in Adams Morgan, and it was hell.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll never do this. I said I'll never do this again. And lately I've been like, do I have the energy for this? And it's as long as I don't have to live in it,
Right.
I think I could do it.
Yeah.
That's just me.
All right, next question. Quirks about DC real estate that outsiders don't understand.
I would say, and you guys probably agree with this on the transaction part, like how important it is to have a very local team when going through a transaction. I think that was one of the most eye-opening things for me going through my own real estate transactions is like, having a big bank involved that doesn't really understand the ins and outs and how quickly things move in DC can really be a hindrance. So that's one of the major things that comes to mind for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I was going to say something more like TOPA is a big thing in DC that I don't know that other locations have. So that's the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. So, just for listeners, obviously you guys know what it is, but anything that you're selling that might have a tenant, you really have to be aware of the tenant's rights. And those are really unique to DC.
I think probably with any urban market, it's all quirks.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a building, if you're a buyer and you're looking at a building, what I appreciate is when my buyers become more hands-on and they want to understand where they're looking and what they're looking for. If they're talking to neighbors or if they're going to the neighborhood and really checking things out. They're not just like they saw the cool pictures online. Maybe we had a showing of the unit. Maybe they went to an open house and like, this place is great. but there's always nuances.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather them know that immediately up front
Mhm.
and get to a comfort level. And I can't always be the one to do that, you
Right.
know? So anything about a building or location, it's all quirks to me. And,
Right.
and we know this stuff because we're out there all the time. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is near this thing, or, you know, which could be positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
But that's our own experience. I just appreciate it when my clients experience that for themselves and can form their own opinion on
Mhm.
anything quirky and urban that we deal with,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
All right. Would you ever buy a stock cooperative as an investment property? So meaning, would you ever buy a cooperative as an investment property?
Yeah, I would say no.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know that I've dealt with this lately, actually. Cooperatives are very strict
Yeah.
in DC and anywhere else, and they may let you own it as a second home,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really an investment at that point.
Right.
Unless, I mean, if you need a pied a terre or something and they will allow you to do that, sure, maybe.
Yeah.
But the rental rules are too strict.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who's gonna like cause a problem for you from the board.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably not a great idea.
I totally agree. I was going to say the same thing. The rules in most cooperatives are really anti-investor. So,
Okay, we're with Jamie Manning from Exposed Brick DC. She's on Instagram at Exposed Brick DC. If you are not familiar with Jamie Manning, how are you not
why
familiar
are you
with?
not?
Like, what?
Yeah, go
Are you
follow her
kidding me?
now.
I mean, seriously. So Jamie, is Exposed Brick your main job? Do you sell real estate? Thanks.
Yeah, good question. So it's interesting. I actually started working for myself last year, and I opened up a small digital agency that works in the political and advocacy space. So I'm like a paid media consultant, and I run digital ads, digital ad campaigns in that space. So I would say that Exposed Brick DC and then my agency job, which is called Swan Street Media. They're my two jobs. So it's not like I have a full-time gig where, it's like I think things ebb and flow. But I do both those things.
For sure.
I think
go ahead.
piggyback on that is, would you ever consider selling real estate full time?
Yeah, someone asked that too.
Never say never, but for this point in my life, no. I really think that people do not understand what a hard job it is. How many hats you have to wear. You have to be a lawyer, a contractor, a therapist, a banker. Like, you have to know so many things. And Max, I actually really like the TikTok that you did about somebody asked, how much do real estate agents make in DC? And you did
Yes.
that breakdown
Mhm.
of, okay, if you sell $10 million of real estate, here's what you would make at the end of the year. I thought that was really eye-opening.
I thought it was eye-opening too when I did it. I was like, that's it? I'm serious.
Yeah.
was
No,
like,
I really liked
whoa.
that one. And I think I was, that was when I saw, and I was reading the comments because I was interested to see what people said. And so many were like, that's not a lot. I was like, well,
People,
that's relative.
it's-
Okay.
once again, it's like fantasy and reality.
Right.
People have this vision of everything. They think
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
God, they see the richest of the rich on social media, television, and they go, man, those people make a lot of money. Or they see realtors driving big cars. It's like, there's a lot of people working in all kinds of industries that
Right.
are middle of the road, like less than middle of the road, above middle, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough job.
It is.
And then, so another thing that came from that TikTok is some people in the comments are like, oh, $10 million a year. I mean, that's like 3 sales. It's like, no,
What?
no. Even in DC where the prices are really high, to sell $10 million a year is hustling,
Right.
Mhm.
is hustling.
Yes.
Now, if you listen to our show, obviously we talk to like the most
Top
elite
producers
right?
that are making more than that. But
Yeah,
I mean, I think what average for, I think at least our brokerage is closer to like 7 or 8 million for
Probably.
an agent.
yeah.
I mean,
And-
obviously there's many that are doing much more than that, but
well, but then go even
Yeah.
further, like nationwide, I think the average income, I looked it up for a realtor, is somewhere in like the 80s or something.
Right,
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Next question. Questions that my friends ask. how much should we weigh comps when making an offer? So how
Hmm.
important are comps when you're making an offer on a property?
I feel like you guys know better than I do
Leslie,
on this one.
what do you think?
I think you 100% should understand the neighborhood that you're looking in and, talk with your realtor about what the comps are. But I think at the end of the day, financially, you should do what's best for you when submitting an offer. So, we as a team, most of the time, say, like, what's your love it, like it, leave it price,
Mhm.
So it's, if it escalates to $1 more than your like it price, like, we're walking away. And so
Mhm.
I think especially right now, as we've talked about, the single family homes there's really low supply. So things are probably escalating more than what the comps say they should be. But people are still buying it. So I think yeah, sure, you should know, but I don't know that it's the most determining factor.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that I look at comps can be really helpful when you have an apples to apples kind of comparison.
Very true.
So if you're looking at a condo building and you can say the last unit in this tier, like the
Mhm.
exact same floor
Mhm.
plan sold for this, and it was recent enough where you can say now our pricing makes sense. And
Yes.
if you're a buyer coming into it, you're like their pricing makes sense. But that doesn't even always add up to the correct answer.
Right.
And then in terms of anything else, it's a supply and demand market. We're talking about a house in Chevy Chase, DC, a
Mhm.
detached house with a cute lot that is priced well. Maybe it's priced below the comps.
Yeah.
Like even when those people are escalating, they can go look at the comps all they want, but it does not mean that it's going to the price is going to land exactly on a number that
Exactly.
they think is determined by some spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess that was a long way of saying yes, comps are important, but you also have to be in the moment and
Right.
like aiming for what you're aiming for.
And I think it all kind of goes back to, again, the individual of what you're planning to do with this house. If this is your forever home and you're staying here for 20 to 30 years, you might, not care as much about the comps than if it is a condo and there's, a lot of the supply that are similar and,
Mhm.
then you're willing to walk away, all of those things.
Yep. So I also put an Ask Me Anything out on my Instagram, and I got a few directed at me, so we can talk about me now. Um, okay, so here's one, and
Do you want me to ask the question?
go for it. Ask either one or each one. I don't
So for Max, what did you do before real estate?
know. Nothing.
Nothing.
Literally, like I was literally doing nothing.
He was a child.
I was like in my mom's basement. That is true. Go ahead.
So if you were a brand new realtor again, what would you do differently to get clients?
Well, I was talking about this the other day. Going back to my my whole life story, I spent a period of time in my early part of my career where I consider myself to have had like a drug and alcohol problem. Okay, and I just wish I hadn't. I don't know. I like, we go through things in our lives, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like there were some days lost there where I
Mhm.
could have been like hitting open houses, and
Sure.
following up with people and helping my clients that I did have more and meeting their friends and doing everything else a realtor should do. By no means was I not successful. I was like functioning, but I feel like now I have a much more firm grasp on my own like energy and how to harness
Mhm.
that. Whereas, when I was under the influence of all these things, I didn't.
Mhm.
And if I could go back, and start this career again, like I would try to taper that off. I still, have fun. You're
Yeah,
young,
right.
but that impeded on that. And then I don't know. I don't know what else I would do differently. I just think following up is really the key to this business. I think when you meet someone new or you like, whether it's a cold lead, open house, or internet lead, the key is to always follow up. Just keep touching them, keep hitting them, give them pieces of value, let them know that you're thinking about them, let them know you are the kind of person that follows up,
Mhm.
and that's how you make things happen
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
kind of business, a sales business.
Right.
And I think that the more agents understand how to do that better, effectively, and manage their time to do that, the more successful they will be. It will add up. It's a numbers game,
Mhm.
and then providing great service is what we're all, the best at doing.
Right.
Once you have that person, in front of you and they need your services, is like just giving them the best service you absolutely can, like caring about them.
Yep.
That's it.
Awesome. This is interesting. How has podcasting helped to grow your business?
I would say, and Brent, if Brent was here, he would answer probably similarly. I think for us, it's been staying in tune with the brokerage community better.
Yeah.
Seeing our top people, like having them here, chatting with us. We never get to spend time with these folks. Maybe if we're in a deal with them, we might talk to them like a few times, or their staff a few times.
Right.
Maybe when we're negotiating a contract, those are some conversations we'd have, and then you might have some personal chatting with them. But these podcasts have been fantastic with staying in tune with all these folks. And I would say, in terms of like the business numbers business part, it's a piece to the pie, the media pie, right? It gives us another outlet, another something else to promote and add into our other media stuff. And I don't know, I just really enjoy doing it every week. It's like part of my weekly thing, and to come in and talk and be on mic, and I just enjoy it. I know Brent does too.
Yeah. Has it, have you had either any experiences where, you've had a client reach out to you directly because of the podcast, or like that you've maybe gotten a listing because, you helped to get a listing in some way because you're like, I have this podcast? Or
I don't think so. I wouldn't say directly because of that, but I think it's part of the
whole marketing,
the whole thing,
pitch. Yeah.
And it adds to the level of expertise. And like when we say that we're connected with these people in the brokerage community, it's very clear,
Right.
Because we're right here. So that's good.
So back to Jamie. There is another question. Are there properties for under $350K in DC that you like?
Yes, 100%. There are definitely really cool listings under 350. One that comes to mind is a studio that was in DuPont, and I think it was listed for 325. And it was in a small boutique building, I think only maybe 3 units, and it was it had a turret, and so the bed was, it was a studio. It was only 400 square feet, and the bed was in the turret, and then there was a fireplace, and then a small kitchen. And it did really well on Instagram. People really loved the tour. And then it also became a viral TikTok because I said something about I would rather live in 400 square feet by myself than live with a roommate. And people really resonated with that.
Completely
That's
agree.
perfect for TikTok right there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's some really cool things under 350. And I think also, like, if that's the price point to, where you can get something and then, add great value to it, maybe do a light renovation, new flooring, all those things.
I mean, for me, under 350, I occasionally get a buyer in this category. There's a lot of product out there actually in this category. There's a lot of junk, a lot of stuff that's been beat up, but there's certainly decent stuff.
Totally.
And if that's what you desire, if you want to own something and have a piece of property in the city, why not?
Yep,
it's great. So I had a question for you, Jamie. So blogging has been, it's not like the biggest money maker for you, but I know it is lucrative for you. What if an agent was interested in doing something like this as sort of like, I don't love this term anymore, side hustle, but like, they have a voice, or they have other things that they want to get out there and blog. What are some suggestions that you would have to someone who would want to get into the blogging world?
That's a really good question. And I actually had a conversation recently with an agent on this exact topic. And I think in real estate, it's really important to niche down on something. So this particular agent had a background in finance. And so I was like, that should be your lane. Like, you should be constantly talking about the ins and outs of how much it really costs to buy real estate. And doing some of the like informative stuff or breaking down the numbers. So I think that any way you can kind of carve something out is good, rather than just trying to be an expert on all aspects of real
Mhm.
estate because there's too much. Someone else, so I know you've had Joe Himmeley on the podcast, and like he's great. Like I feel like when you go to his site that you're gonna see some like quirky historic stuff.
Yep.
So any way that you can brand yourself on a very specific part of real estate, I think is helpful.
I think that's great, and I would also say though that for anyone, I think what I see, what you do has extreme authenticity to it,
Mhm.
and that's what we talked about before. I think on the podcast is that when you do something, it's like it's obviously people know your personality through it because you're consistent, and what you're showing is consistent. You don't jump from like a cool urban property with like cool light in a neat location to the $26 million thing. You
Right.
know what I mean? That's what I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just do whatever I'm doing. I don't
Right,
I don't
yeah.
even like
Yeah.
it just happens. So but that I think that like the niche down idea is really smart because we all have things that we are passionate about.
Mhm.
Another thing that I'm really weird about is like passions, but it's like just true.
Yeah.
Like we all have things that we're really
It
interested
comes
in any given.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's your personality,
Mhm.
and people will connect with that.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right that being authentic is really one of the biggest keys as well, and it will come across
Yeah.
if it's forced. And doing this is also a lot of work. Like you really have to carve out the time to commit to putting media out there because now it's just I think become so much a part of agents' jobs and anybody that owns a small business. Content creation has become part of their jobs.
It's huge.
Have you ever thought of hiring someone to help with the blog? Or is that a future aspiration or?
So at one point I did hire people.
Okay.
This was pretty early on when I was still only talking about rentals
Mhm.
and just going through Craigslist every day. And so at one point I think I had 4 different people, and I assigned each of them a day. I said, okay, you get access to the blog, go through Craigslist, pick the places that you like, and here's the format. And I paid them, and I think that they all quit within 6 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they were like, "This is awful. Like, I don't know why you do this, how you do this." So again, you have to have a passion
Right.
for it. And now, selfishly, like I enjoy it so much, I don't want to outsource anything because I love doing it myself. But I guess I'd consider it later if it's something that I really wanted to scale because people ask like, "Oh, will you do this in Virginia? Like, come to Maryland." But we'll see.
Right. I guess one more tidbit on the blogging and media stuff. I think we've talked about this before, but can you offer just what is an essential kind of schedule, like a weekly schedule, to make sure everything's sort of consistent? Give us an idea of that.
Yeah. So I think thinking about content pillars is something like a lot of social media strategists talk about. And for me, like I can't plan out my content because the market moves so quickly.
Yeah.
So if there's a house that I see on Thursday that I want to post about, it might be gone by Sunday. So I can't be super granular in terms of the actual content that I'm posting, but I can stick to certain themes. So I think that that's been really helpful to know, okay, on Monday, I've fallen off a little bit on this, but trying to do make an offer Monday. So like things that have been sitting on the market that I think are still interesting. Wednesdays, I still talk about rentals. So that way you just have kind of a clear idea of what you're going to do. Friday is when you vote to see which one's going to be like the Friday feature. So that's been really helpful in helping me kind of stay on track is having those content pillars set.
And you have a broad
sure.
audience too. So if you come up with a couple properties that for them to make an offer Monday idea, for example, that's going to sort of like tease that idea, that nerve that people have of like, wait, is there possibly a bargain out here?
Right.
Maybe get them off the fence.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, it's like people, they like coming back knowing what they're going to get. And so I don't know if this sticks in anybody's mind that follows the blog, but I would hope that maybe on Sunday they're excited because they're like, oh, Monday is like when the deals come on. Like I got to make sure that I check out her stories.
For sure.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting for sure, but it's fun.
So Jamie, we're going to round it out with a couple of fun rapid fire questions.
Great.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Favorite bakery?
Tate. Sponsor me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love
Tell 'em right
Tate.
now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
There's now like what 7 in
right,
the city.
yeah.
I feel like they're popping up everywhere. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, and then also a DC hidden gem that you found recently.
Like a shop or a restaurant.
Anything that
Okay, so this isn't technically DC, but it's Alexandria.
will allow it.
Okay, Mance, which is
Oh,
a like a home decor store, and I think it's fairly new, but they've got really cool stuff.
Man, sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Favorite neighborhood.
That's really a hard question, and people ask me that all the time. And I just think that there are so many great things about every single neighborhood. So I really think it's kind of impossible to choose. I think I now feel more well-rounded in terms of knowing all the neighborhoods, because when I first moved to DC, I was in Northwest, and now I've made my way sort of across the city. So I feel like I have a much better understanding. I still get confused around Capitol Hill for some reason. I don't know why. It's just so big.
It's big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's huge.
Favorite other account at this moment.
That's a good question. So I actually, I don't know if many people know this, but I did this like social media purge where I don't follow anyone on social media that I know personally.
Okay.
Like I don't follow any of my friends.
Interesting.
Why is that?
I really try to treat my Exposed Brick account as like a place to go for inspiration.
Okay.
So I really only follow interior design accounts, architecture. I try to follow a lot of DC bloggers just to kind of understand like what kind of content they're creating. A few agents, but yeah, I try to keep my personal life separate from my Exposed Brick account.
I kind of love this idea actually,
It's really
because
nice.
instead of getting sucked into the world of
Right. Yeah.
you know who's doing what and right,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
can really keep it
Gotta
focused.
stay focused.
Yeah.
Okay. And then a special question from Max. Who's curating
Yeah.
Jamie Manning fashion
Yeah.
right now?
Thank you.
You've got a great sweater on.
Thank
So
you. So I live and die by Rent the Runway.
Ah,
Again,
okay.
I have a code.
Right on.
Take my code.
Let us know the code.
And it's something I started post COVID, and because now my work life is I'm either at home doing stuff on the computer or I'm with clients. So I really only need like sweatpants or nice clothes,
Yeah.
no,
Right.
really like in between. So yeah, Rent the Runway is what I've been really enjoying.
Love it.
Yeah.
Super sustainable too.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially, living in a small space.
Yeah.
It's great to not junk up your closet with stuff.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing for men, by the way.
They really need
Oh,
to start
really?
that.
Yeah, there should be.
There are plenty of like subscription things. Like we can
Right.
send you a new outfit every month that you'll probably hate.
Right.
You know. I mean, I wear the look. I'm a typical guy though. I wear the same suits
Right.
until
It's like
base-
custom
yeah,
to you.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't.
Well, Jamie, it's great to
Yeah.
have you again.
Yeah.
Thank you
thanks,
so much for
guys.
coming down.
Really fun.
Again, Jamie Manning's Exposed Brick DC. I'm pretty sure everyone who listens to our podcast knows who you are, but if you're not on her blog and on her Instagram, you should be there. And Jamie, we always do a shout out and a donation to a charity of our guest choice. Anyone this week?
Right. Okay. So I need to think about that because I did Habitat and I did Autism Speaks.
Mhm.
I guess let's just do Habitat again. We'll just flip flop. Great.
Right
Yeah.
on.
And then what's the other thing I have to do?
That's
A shout out?
that's it. No,
The
to
shout
the
out.
charity.
Okay.
Charity.
Okay. Okay.
It's
okay.
done.
Okay. Great.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.